For Sunday, September 13th, 2020. This is the Pro and Con Show, and I am your host, Michael James Ott. As it says on my fabulous tablet, I'm the host. Just a couple seconds at the beginning of each show, promoting us all being better citizens. That means listening to each other, understanding the positions, where you're coming from, how you got to those positions, and by doing just that, focusing on the facts, the who, the what, the where, and the when, you're going to find that there's a lot more common ground amongst us than we would ever believe, because we are being separated, torn apart as a country by two political parties who are very happy to keep us in tribes or even cults, if you will, using emotion around issues like abortion or gun control, these kinds of things, to promote their agendas of groups, actually small groups of wealthy, powerful individuals. We can do so much better. We will do so much better. Please, be a better citizen, okay? Take my hand. Walk with me to a better tomorrow. So today's show, I'm talking about tax reform. So the current environment, there's been three major news items, if you will, over the last several weeks. So there's the ongoing thing of the pandemic, up to 190,000 people dead in this country now, projected to be 350,000, maybe 400,000 by the end of the year. Could be that bad, especially if we continue to not take it seriously and wear masks and distance and sanitize our hands and all those kinds of things. So pandemic is one of the big things. The election, Mr. Trump versus America, basically. So that's a big thing there. And then the last one is what is it? Senior moment time. So the election, the pandemic. Oh, and we have a lot of racial unrest, and it's ongoing, and it keeps getting fomented by police officers continuing to shoot people of color for no apparent reason other than they're a person of color. Now that doesn't, of course, that's not true all over the place or whatever, but there's still definitely cases on a regular basis, thank God, captured by video, so we know the true storyline. But it's unfathomable to me and to tens, hundreds of millions of people in this country, how our police can keep shooting these obviously obvious people that, not necessarily innocent, if you will, but certainly not deserving of death by gunshot. But anyway, so those three are the major issues, right? The racial unrest, the pandemic, and the big election of Mr. Trump, or hopefully defeat of Mr. Trump. But even so, even though, and those are major issues, and they should have a lot of our attention, we still have to keep marshaling along and looking at other issues and trying to resolve them in the best interest of the rest of us. And one of those issues is taxes and tax reform. So one of the things that helps divide the wealth amongst the rich and the rest of us is the fact that our tax law is written in a very great way to provide all kinds of protections against paying. So they, for example, corporate America, their corporate tax rate, in a table somewhere might be 21% or whatever it is, or 28%, whatever it is. But that has no, in most cases, no relationship whatsoever to what they actually pay, because through the tax law, through the complex tax law that we've allowed our representatives to pass over the years, there are all kinds of loopholes, the infamous loopholes, that allow individuals, businesses, groups, or whatever that are actually making a lot of money, should be paying a lot of taxes, and aren't. And the problem with the current tax code is that it is unbelievably complex, and what we've done, or what you and I as the citizens of this country have allowed our representatives to do, is to fold in all kinds of special interest kinds of aspects to the tax code. For example, a long-running tax deduction has been mortgages on houses. And so this was done to promote Americans building and owning their own homes. Now, on the surface, that might seem like that's a great thing. And maybe it is. But what the hell is it doing in our tax code? Our taxes should be very simple, very consistent, a certain set rate. And then if we want to do certain things for the less fortunate, for example, and we want them to pay less taxes, we don't put it in the tax code. We just, in separate legislation, we rebate to them taxes, or we give them special support, economic support, or whatever. But the taxes and the tax code should just be a very basic thing. Simple, 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 simple. And in fact, so simple that the vast majority of individuals would not have to submit any tax forms at all. I apologize if folks are mowing the grass outside my window here. They would, because as for the vast majority of individuals, you would just pay the tax. You just pay it, whatever the tax rate is. So a flat rate on every dollar for every dollar received, corporate or individual. Okay, and so I looked up, typical state taxes, typical Social Security taxes, typical federal taxes, the budgets, like the federal budget, state budget per capita, and so on and so forth, and then proposals around basic health care, again similar to Social Security, basic health care, basic, kind of social safety net kind of health care, similar to Social Security being a basic safety net for retirement. And it looks like the tax rate would be on the order of 25 to 30%. 25 to 30%. So what that means is that whether you're an individual or corporation or whatever that tax rate was, you just pay it. Okay? And again, if we as a society, you and I and our representatives, decide that we do want to promote building of homes and individual home ownership, then outside the tax code, separate legislation, we would say the Private Ownership of Home Act, and take some of the tax dollars and direct it at spending to compensate people who own their own homes in some way, but get it out of the damn tax code. And that would be true for the poor. So why the flat rate? Why? Well, what it means is that you're incentivized, okay, capitalism at its best, right? You're incented to keep earning money because let's say the tax rate is 30%. Well, it means that 70 cents on the dollar, every single dollar that you earn more, you get to keep 70 cents of it. So whether you're making $20,000 a year, or $200,000 a year, or $2 million a year, or $2 billion a year, you're incented to keep going. And that's important because that's how capitalism generally works. You want people incented to keep expanding, to keep growing, to keep doing those things. But what's also true is that if you are earning $2 billion a year and you're being taxed and actually taxed at a 30% rate, then you are going to, what is that, $600 million a year. You're going to pay $600 million a year in taxes. You're going to keep $1.4 billion for yourself or your family, but you're going to pay $600 million in taxes. And yes, you're not going to get the benefit in streets and libraries and stuff like that for your $600 million. But guess what? You can afford it because you're getting to keep $1.4 billion, which is more than enough to live off of, most people think. Just going out there on a limb. Okay? And so we get this, we walk away from this whole thing with all the complexity and get rid of all of that friction in our economy and all the court stuff, all the legal stuff that goes on with, and the IRS and all the processing of claims and the searching for people who are either accidentally or intentionally trying to violate the tax code, and on and on and on and on and on. All this wasted, horrifically wasted effort, and all of the taxes lost because people exploit the loopholes in the tax laws and all that. All of it goes away. We have a great place. And the last big benefit is it's very easy then to, here's the tax rate and here's the budget, okay? And it's very easy to say, okay, the budget is this. That means the tax rate has to be 29% this year, up from 27.5% last year, because we got to meet the budget. And people might say, well, I'd rather keep the tax rate at 27.5%. Okay, then let's shrink the budget. It makes all of that incredibly straightforward to do. It's the right way to do it. And all of us, should be promoting and asking for tax reform that gets all of the loopholes and the special incentives and all that stuff out of the tax code. That's not where it should be. Okay? So, for the Pro and Con Show, my name is Michael James Ott, and until the next show, bye for now.